there's without a doubt some incredibly talented players on this 2022 Jaguars roster that have a huge chance of making the Pro Bowl and really being in Pro Bowl consideration towards the end of the year. Players like Josh Allen, Trevor Lawrence, who was looked at as possibly like he needs to have the biggest impact in 2022 out of all of the young players in the league. Evan Ingram's hoping to get back to a second one. Brandon Scherff is trying to continue his streak of being a perennial Pro Bowler. But we're really not here to talk about the nationally talked about guys. We're here for sleepers. Starting us off for the sleepers is Jamal Agnew. Jamal Agnew came into Jacksonville from the Detroit Lions in 2021 and really was expected to be nothing more than a return guy. And if we saw 1 to 2 kickoff returns, get brought to the 40 to the 45, maybe if we were lucky, get one return for a touchdown, we'd be really happy with that. He's brought in to be a return guy. He was paid very well to be a return guy. Well, Agnew didn't just perform to the expectations that were really placed in front of him. He really did blow through those expectations. Throughout the beginning of the season, he was really setting himself up to be a 2-time All-Pro returner. He was making huge impact plays as a returner, but then also as a nice little gadget wide receiver. He had the incredible catch against Cincinnati on the Thursday night game. He had that incredible 65-plus yard touchdown run against the Indianapolis Colts. So he's a multifaceted player that can be really used in a lot of different schemes in a lot of different ways. Now, Jamal Agnew, for me, is someone that if he can kind of build off of that little bit of success he had in 2021 with the 2 touchdowns returned and then the amazing catch and then also that huge long touchdown run, I think if the Jaguars use him a lot more in those situations, I absolutely do think Jamal Agnew is going to kind of get his name out there as one of the better gadget players throughout the league. And even if he just makes the Pro Bowl as a returner, he still makes the Pro Bowl. That's what he is. Is Devin Hester talked about as a wide receiver? No, he's talked about as a returner, and he's arguably, if not the greatest returner of all time. You can absolutely make a career as a returner. And Jamal Agnew is doing just that. The incredible quickness and coming back off the injury, hopefully he comes back just as good as he left. And if he does, I really do think there's a good chance Jamal Agnew ends up in where are they doing it now? Orlando, Vegas, wherever they're doing the Pro Bowl, that's where Jamal Agnew is going to be as a returner. And if we're lucky, he might even sneak in as, someone that can play a little bit in that gadget type setup. Now, this next guy, Andre Cisco, he was drafted in the 3rd round, and there was an insane amount of hype around the fact that he was just a ball hawk while with the University of Syracuse or Syracuse University, whichever one it is. Cisco was a dominant force for the Orange. He knows where the ball is, and he absolutely attacked it. Now, he does kind of have this like feast or famine play style that really could hamper his production, but if he can settle in, just kind of play smart ball, he can really have a huge impact for the Jaguars. I don't think there is going to be a reason why he can't do that, but if you just look at the very, very limited time he had to play in the league last year, I think he played just like over 200 snaps, which is terribly small. When you talk about like starters actually playing close to about 1,000 snaps, you only saw a fifth of what's normally seen on the field. Now, there's 2 clips that really stood out to me with Andre Cisco. One was against the Jets. They were both later in the year. One was against the Jets, and one of them was against the Indianapolis Colts. For the first one, it's the play against the Jets. He comes in off the screen. You don't even see him until you see him, and he's making the play on the ball. Unfortunately, he did not come down with the interception, but it was just the fact that he comes in screaming in, makes the play on the ball. Unfortunately, I believe does drop it, but forces that 3rd and long, and I believe the Jets ended up having to punt on that drive. So you talk about that impact play, really stalled the drive there, and almost created that turnover. If we can just get 5 kind of plays like that, talk about Shaq Griffin dropping the ball. That's not the issue Andre Cisco has. He's never had that issue, and it was just a diving catch that he ended up dropping. Now, the other one is this Mike Tyson-style punch-out that he had against the Indianapolis Colts. I believe it was the Week 18 game. He just comes flying in, knocks the ball out of the ball carrier's hands right at the last second. And unfortunately, like the first play, it did not end up as a positive for the Jaguars other than just the fact that, kind of slowed the drive down. The Jaguars do not recover the fumble, but it was the fact that he had the forced fumble and he has that, potential interception late in the year when he was actually really starting to see playing time that it shows. If you extrapolate that over the length of the season, you're going to have a bunch of impact plays surrounding him. If Cisco can even come close to that kind of production throughout the season, I really do think he has a chance at maybe swinging for the fences and end up being one of those fringe Pro Bowlers. The safeties in the AFC are everywhere, especially out in the AFC West where it's just an arms race and they're trying to stop every single offense that is ever going to be created out there. But if he can even make it as an alternate, when DJ Chark made his Pro Bowl, he was an alternate. He's not referred to as a Pro Bowl alternate, though. He's referred to as a Pro Bowler. So if, even Cisco can make it there, I do think he's going to have a good chance if he can have a nice little season carved out for him in Jacksonville. Now, this other guy is someone that was taken in the same exact draft class as Andre Cisco, and I believe he was taken just a round earlier, Tyson Campbell. He's going to be entering his second year as well, and he's primed for a massive leap forward. Honestly, whenever you look at the Jaguars that are primed to have huge years, it's Trevor Lawrence and then Tyson Campbell. It is, and maybe Travis Etienne. I might even put Cisco ahead of Etienne, just because you can't have a bounce back from nothing. But Tyson Campbell's going to be entering his second year, and I absolutely do think he's primed to have an A.J. Terrell type of leap going into his second year. Terrell became an All-Pro. I believe he was first-team All-Pro in his second year, and despite the fact that Campbell started off atrociously in the first half of the year, I think he had all of his good quality plays like the last 8 games of the week or the season. He was just always in position to make the play, and he just never seemed to turn his head and actually make the play on the ball. He just never did it. And the second half of the year was just like, I don't know what Joe Cullen did, but it was literally like they flipped a switch. I think it was the switch to playing zone that just absolutely blew up for him, because it was night and day when you talk about the performance that Tyson Campbell had in the second half of the year, and that is why Jaguar fans are so excited to see what Tyson Campbell can do in year 2. His 2 interceptions did come in the final 6 weeks of the season, and so did 6 of his 10 pass breakups. So he had 100% of his interceptions, and then 60% of his pass breakups coming in the last 6 weeks. What is it, the last third of the season, essentially. If he can continue where he left off there's no doubt in my mind that he's going to make a push to be a Pro Bowler next year, despite the fact that if the safeties are crowding the room in the AFC, the corners are absolutely even deeper. I think there's like 10, 12, 13 corners you could actually name in the AFC that would, if you put them in the not in the Hall of Fame, in the Pro Bowl, it'd be like, yeah, they're good quality, elite corners in the AFC. So it's going to be a hard push for him to make it, but if he does make it, you're just going to know that the Jaguars had one hell of a season. Now this last guy for me is just an honorable mention. I don't think he's really going to make the Pro Bowl. I don't think there's a huge chance that he does, but if he has a repeat year of what he did last year, I definitely think he's going to start getting some national notoriety, and it's Foye Oluokun. The 192 tackle mark is 7th best all-time in NFL history. If you can even hover around that 175, 180 mark, and then once again probably end up leading the league in tackles, because that is far and away where the number kind of needs to be, that 160, 170 mark to really solidify yourself as one of the league's best tacklers. And if he can get to that 175, 180 mark, which he eclipsed last year, and tack on 4 to 5 turnovers, which he's also had in the previous years, I think he'll snatch national attention and start to join that conversation as one of the best dominant linebackers in the league. He's going to join that conversation with Roquan Smith. Obviously, he's a little bit older than Roquan, but still, he's going to join that conversation and finally start to get some notoriety, despite the fact that he's played, on bad Atlanta Falcon teams and then come to Jacksonville, which the market managed to get smaller for him. But once again, Foye Oluokun, probably the honorable mention. My 3 sleepers for the Pro Bowl this year: Jamal Agnew, Andre Cisco, and then Tyson Campbell. I think all of them are primed for really good years if they do what is expected of them, and they're not really getting talked about a whole lot on the national scale. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you appreciated the video, I'd love for you to like it. If you're not subscribed already, please do as well. Thank you again. Stay safe, and go Jaguars.
How about them Jags?
Come on, Joe! Ah! Thank you, baby! Thank you! You're making blood come from my damn mouth!
Duval! Yeah!